So this is the brand new Acer Predator Helios Neo 16, a ridiculously long name of a laptop. In fact, I would like to sit down with Acer's marketing department and meet the person who actually comes up with these names. Because in what world does Acer Predator Helios Neo 16 sound like a name that rolls right off the tongue? Like, could you imagine you're sitting down with your friend Jack, he notices your laptop, and he's like, "Hey Matt, what laptop's that?" And you're like, "Well, this is the Acer Predator Helios Neo 16. Like, most normal people are not gonna remember that except for us nerds who watch these laptop videos. Most people are gonna think of this as the Acer Predator, and that's exactly it. But terrible name out of the way, this is actually a pretty good laptop. You know, they're taking a lot of Lenovo vibes and also a couple of tricks from Asus and creating something of their own. This is the US model. It's this clean gray lid. It's mostly made out of plastic. You do have the Acer logo at the top, but if you are in Canada and other places around the world, it's gonna look identical, at least when it comes to its form factor, but the design of it is gonna be more towards what Asus is doing with their Scar lineup. Like, it's gonna be a black lid, it's gonna have like messages you can decipher with a black light, but overall it's the same product. It's a chunker, around 5.73 pounds, so it's a bit on the heavier side. I think its direct competition is actually the Legion 5 Pro, and I'll talk about that shortly. But you do have tons of I/O to utilize. For example, on the left-hand side, you do have a full-size Ethernet jack, you have a USB-A port, micro SD, you have a headphone jack, and then on the right-hand side, you have two more USB-A ports, and then on the back, you have two Type-C ports. One of them is Thunderbolt 4, this one's not, HDMI 2.1, and then you do have a power connector. Now the weird thing is, the power brick that came with this laptop is big. Like, it's a big 330 watt power brick, which is strange because it's an RTX 4060. Like, usually you don't go past 230, maybe even 300. But 330, like, you're usually including that size of a power brick with an RTX 4090. So, little weird for their choice because you're just adding more weight than you actually need with this laptop. The overall lid feels fairly rigid, a little squishy on the top, easy to open up with one hand. You have a display that can go almost all the way back, but it kind of stops right here. The hinge of the display is not bad. It's a little wobbly, but it's not terrible. And then of course you have Acer's traditional gaming keyboard. I've seen this keyboard on their laptops literally for the past 7 years. Like, it's been the same rubberized texture, the same layout. You know, you have your numpad on the right-hand side. It's an okay keyboard, but it's definitely starting to show its age. The touchpad is nice and big. It's obviously plastic. It's not my favorite touchpad to use. I do like the fact that they got rid of the tacky chrome border around it. It just looked a little bit cheaper. This, I think, looks a bit more clean. Stickers are obviously everywhere. You got the 165 hertz sticker, NVIDIA sticker. It's actually pretty straight. The sticker guy was definitely doing his work on this laptop, so kudos to the sticker guy. Display is 16 inches. It's 2560 by 1600, and it's a pretty good display. It gets really bright, over 500 nits of brightness. The color gamut is pretty good, and it does have good color accuracy. It supports G-Sync, 165 hertz. It's 16 by 10, so you get that extra vertical space. And the cool thing about this display that I liked compared to other laptops is because it's a thick boy, the display rests a little bit higher, so the line of sight is a little better. Like, with most laptops, you kind of have to look more down. With this guy, you can put your eye gaze a little bit higher, so it feels a tiny bit more natural. Now, we do have a 1080p webcam at the top, which is always great for Zoom calls or streaming, and there are two speakers on the bottom of the laptop. They're nothing special. They get loud enough, but they sound very tinny and very echoey. Most likely you're gonna wanna be using headphones with this machine. Now, for performance, I compared it directly to the Legion 5 Pro because it too has the exact same specs as this, and depending on where you are in the world, this is a more affordable laptop. And I did find a Legion 5 Pro that was a little bit cheaper than this guy, but it had a slightly inferior display, and it only had 512 gigabytes of storage instead of 1 terabyte. But if you price both laptops identically, this laptop is about $250 cheaper. And when it came to actual CPU performance, it was literally trading blows back and forth with the Legion 5 Pro, and sometimes they were neck and neck. Even if you're a developer, you're gonna find both laptops to perform very, very well. For creative applications like Adobe Photoshop and Premiere Pro, it's exactly where it should be. No issues with any sort of design work that I put towards this. And even if you're a 3D artist and using Blender, it performs exactly where an RTX 4060 should be that's running at 140 watts. Now, most of you buying this laptop are buying it for gaming, and an RTX 4060 in a laptop is really geared towards individuals who want to game at 1080p. Now, you can game at QHD as well. This does have a QHD display, but most likely playing more optimized titles or older titles if you want to achieve higher frame rates. But this year, Acer did a better job with their fan tuning. Like, they still have a turbo mode, and if you want to get to turbo mode, you can do it directly through the software or press this little button over here, which will cycle through each different profile. Turbo is still really loud. Like, we're talking about fan noise that is well over the 60s, but if you leave it on performance or balance, it's actually pretty good. They did a really good job of keeping the fans lower compared to previous Acer products. Now, obviously, if you put it on balanced or even quiet mode, you're not going to hear the fans at all, but of course, you're going to take a dip into performance. When it came to actual cooling, this performed very well. Keyboard deck never got too hot. Fingers always felt nice and cool. The actual CPU temps were in the 70s and stayed there after being pounded by Prime 95 for quite some time. And even the core clock speeds were very respectable. It's not the highest I've seen for a 13700HX, but it's sustained very nicely with no drops, which is always good to see. Now, it does have a mux switch like most laptops do today, and if you want to change it, you have to go into the NVIDIA control panel, which you can do it from there. Nothing really to complain about the internals. You have lots of copper going back and forth to help keep the CPU and GPU cool. 2 fans. You have 2 slots for drives. One is populated with a very fast NVMe SSD, and there's a second slot over here if you want to put something in the future. 2 slots for RAM, both are upgradable. It says you can put up to 32 gigabytes, but I believe you could actually go up to 64. You have a swappable Wi-Fi 6E card and then a big 90 watt-hour battery. And I got pretty good battery life on this, 6 hours and 58 minutes before needing a charge. So here's the thing about the Acer Predator Helios Neo 16. It is a very well-performing laptop. They nailed the battery life, it has a good display, the performance is where it should be, tons of ports, and you can upgrade most of the stuff. But it comes down to price, because I still think personally the Lenovo Legion 5 Pro is just a more premium feeling machine. It's better put together. They had to cut a little bit of corners around here, like the build quality, in order to get the price down. But the thing is, you're still getting identical performance and you're still getting pretty much the exact same experience. It really comes down to price. If you're in a region where the Acer Predator Helios Neo 16, I can't believe I'm saying the whole name like that fast, is cheaper than the Legion 5 Pro, this is obviously a better deal. But if the Legion 5 Pro is the exact same price, then personally, I would go with that instead. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.